The president worth hundreds of billions of dollars can't cure his strange disease. In order to overcome this strange disease, he lingered among the flowers like a dandy, just to find a woman who would not be allergic to him. But after decades of trying, they all failed. He was drunk on the street in pain, but he accidentally fell under the bridge after drinking too much. At the moment of crisis, a girl suddenly rushed out to save him. But he was so drunk that he didn't see the girl's face clearly. He only felt that this embrace was very warm, and his body had no rejection. By the time he woke up, the girl who saved him had already left, and he mistakenly thought that the scheming girl was the one who saved him. Wei Qing asked, "Did you save me just now? Who are you?" This girl's name is Zhang Ranyu. Wei Qing thought he had found his destined fate, so he took Zhang Ranyu to his hotel for vacation on Valentine's Day. Because he has a serious cleanliness habit, he changed everything in the room that could be changed and disinfected what could not be changed. When he was setting up, a waiter sneaked in, rummaged around for something, and then bumped into Wei Qing in the dressing room. He is allergic to women. He immediately rushed into the bathroom to take a shower. The girl was the housekeeper arranged by the manager, who was the one who saved him in the first place, but neither of them recognized each other. Zhou Shi works part-time in a hotel and wants to confess her love to her childhood sweetheart's brother next door on Valentine's Day. So she booked a room in advance and put a love letter. She didn't expect that the room she had booked was occupied by Wei Qing, and the love letter was thrown into the trash. Unbeknownst to her, she thought Wei Qing had taken her things and was ready to wait for an opportunity to get them back. And Wei Qing didn't know that the girl he hated in front of him was exactly the person he was looking for, and he was very attentive to an imposter. But he soon realized that something was wrong, because his body was very repulsive to Zhang Ranyu's touch. In order to find out the situation, he deliberately took out the necklace he picked up that day and asked, "Do you know this necklace? Is your company's new design product?" Seeing that Zhang Ranyu doesn't know him, Wei Qing knew it in his heart, but he didn't make a sound. But Zhang Ranyu began to throw himself into his arms, and Wei Qing hurriedly used his mobile phone to ask Zhou Shi behind him for help. When he returned to the room, his body was already covered with a red rash, and it was not her. Wei Qing found the wrong person and wanted to get together and break up. But Zhang Ranyu didn't want to let go of the fat in his mouth, so he had to tear his face and be a scumbag again. At this time, Zhou Shi, who was hiding aside eavesdropping, saw Wei Qing coming and hurriedly got into the car to hide, but was taken away by Wei Qing by driving. Zhou Shi thought to himself, "It's over, it's over, it's over." She accidentally hid in the car. What should I do? Zhou Shi was thinking about how to explain, but the phone rang suddenly. Wei Qing hurriedly braked sharply and asked Zhou Shi why he was in his car. Zhou Shi explained that she had something on him. Wei Qing asked her to get away. Zhou Shi explained that he did not deliberately approach him. Don't think crookedly. Wei Qing didn't want to say more, so he asked her to get out of the car directly. But this place was very desolate, and Zhou Shi refused to go down even if he was beaten to death. So Wei Qing was about to send people to the police station, and when Zhou Shi heard that he was coming, he hurriedly shouted to get out of the car. During the pull, his car accidentally hit a pile of stones. Seeing that he was in trouble, Zhou Shi was so frightened that he turned around and ran away, and both of them fell into the mud puddle. Wei Qing, who had a severe cleanliness fetish, suddenly became bad and shouted, "Are you crazy? What are you doing?" Zhou Shi has practiced weightlifting and wrestling. She easily subdued the 1.8-meter-tall Wei Qing and wanted to retrieve the lost love letter from him. However, after searching all over her body, she couldn't find the letter. At this time, Wei Qing, who had a severe cleanliness fetish, had been tossed to the point of being inhuman, and he couldn't figure out where Zhou Shi's confidence came from, and he felt that he was a dignified chairman. How could he steal a worthless letter from her? Zhou Shi said, "What you said is right. It's just a letter." Zhou Shi's words made Wei Qing suddenly soften. At this time, it suddenly rained heavily in the sky, and Wei Qing, who was dressed in a quirky outfit, was even allergic to rain and was exhausted when it rained. Zhou Shi saw this and wanted to carry him, but was pushed away. Wei Qing thought to himself, "Even if he is pressed down in the field, he will never allow himself to be looked down upon again." Even if he crawled, he had to climb back. Zhou Shi was at fault, so he had to accompany him in the rain. Fortunately, there is a bus stop not far away. At this time, Wei Qing remembered to ask her, "What did that letter say?" Zhou Shi was embarrassed to say that it was a love letter, so he lied that it was an IOU. But such an obvious excuse, Wei Qing saw through it at a glance. At this time, he already remembered that when he checked into the hotel, he threw a pink letter casually. At this time, a meteor passed by, and the girl couldn't help but make a wish when she saw the meteor, but Wei Qing sneered on the side, saying that the meteor was some garbage in the universe, and it might even be a toilet floating out of the space station. He said, "Think about it when you make a wish to the toilet seat. You are really a person with your own taste." Zhou Shi was disgusted and couldn't make a promise, not understanding why his big man's mouth was so broken. Just as the two continued to bicker, the bus slowly approached. When he returned to the hotel, Wei Qing realized that something was wrong. He had stayed with Zhou Shi for so long, and he was not allergic. Wei Qing thought to himself, "This level of contact cannot be fine." When the assistant helped retrieve the love letter he had thrown away and saw the ring of the same style as the necklace, he immediately suspected that Zhou Shi was the one who saved him that day. To verify your guess, he came to Zhou Shi's school. Seeing Wei Qing suddenly appearing, Zhou Shi was surprised and said, "Didn't you say you didn't want to have anything to do with me?" Wei Qing said, "I changed my mind, little girl. We'll meet again." After the people left, Zhou Shi then found the missing necklace in his pocket. Zhou Shi helped his girlfriend work at the bar and met Wei Qing on the first day. Afraid of being recognized, her head almost hung to the ground, but she was stopped in the next second. Zhou Shi only received the scholarship in the morning, afraid that Wei Qing would recognize her and report to the school. She didn't expect Wei Qing to just tip her, but after she left, Wei Qing asked the bar manager about her situation. It turned out that he had recognized Zhou Shi for a long time. At this time, Zhou Shi was still complacent and not recognized, and saw the necklace of the reward. She couldn't help but complain that the rich man was really panicked. At this time, two gangsters passed by him and were discussing the trouble of finding Wei Qing. Hearing this, Zhou Shi hurriedly informed Wei Qing to run away, but it was still a step late. Wei Qing is strong first, but it is difficult to defeat four hands with two fists. Zhou Shi saw the gangster sneak attack, hurriedly stepped forward to help, snatched the baseball bat from the gangster's hand, and broke it with his bare hands. Just when he was about to continue to help, he accidentally broke his foot. At the moment of crisis, security finally arrived. Wei Qing asked, "Are you okay?" Zhou Shi said, "It hurts so much." Wei Qing hurriedly sent the person to the hospital. As a cleanliness addict, he was afraid of bacteria in the hospital, so he actually sent people to sterile wards. In order not to owe Zhou Shi a favor, Wei Qing wanted to send her away with money, but was pushed away. Zhou Shi said, "I'm not helping for money." Wei Qing had to ask her what she wanted, and said, "If you don't say it, you can't leave." She had no choice. Zhou Shi had no choice but to say, "Art and theory are not failed." So the next day, Wei Qing went to her school as a visiting professor. But Zhou Shi fell asleep directly in class because he didn't sleep well last night. When I woke up, it was just a question session. At this time, she was misunderstood as wanting to ask a question. She took the microphone with a confused face, and the classmates on the side hurriedly typed cheat sheets for her, and she read it directly. What to eat at noon. Her classmates told her the following sentence. In order to let Zhou Shi master more knowledge as soon as possible, Wei Qing opened a small stove for her. But Zhou Shi didn't want it, saying, "Memorizing so much information in one night is not repaying a favor, but more like revenge." In the evening, the two made an appointment to study at KTV, but Zhou Shi was enjoying himself inside. Wei Qing arrived early. Zhou Shi said, "But I just paid for the K private room for an hour." In order not to waste the money, the two decided to study after singing. So in class the next day, one of the two coughed on stage and the other coughed off stage. The mother regards her son as an enemy, but treats her adopted son as a treasure. When Wei Qing was 18 years old, his parents brought him back a younger brother Ning Fei from the orphanage. From then on, he was asked to let Ning Fei go everywhere. Ning Fei doesn't like to talk, but he is a painting genius. In order to stimulate his son's self-motivation, his father always praised Ning Fei and belittled Wei Qing, but he didn't know that doing so would only backfire. Wei Qing began to become sensitive and rebellious, so as long as Ning Fei was wronged, whether it was right or wrong, he would always be punished. He couldn't stand his parents' partiality and finally broke out. "Since you like to pick up things so much, why did you give birth to me at that time?" In order to better discipline his son, Wei's father took him to the United States, but he did not expect to encounter a burglary. When Wei's mother got the news, not only did she not comfort her son, but hated him for killing her husband. After everything calms down, the lawyer begins to deal with the estate. When Wei's mother heard that her husband had left the gallery to her son, she immediately wondered if she had made a mistake. But the will was opened by her own hands, and there was no problem. Wei Qing didn't want any inheritance, so he asked the lawyer to hand it over to his mother, who said, "He doesn't want the inheritance can be given to me, right?" At this time, the lawyer took out a letter, and it turned out that his father had expected all this and prepared his words in advance. Sure enough, Wei Qing stopped refusing after reading the letter. But my mother stopped and said, "Don't you want it?" Wei Qing said, "This is my father's last wish." Wei's mother said, "Your dad is confused." Wei's mother wanted to persuade her son to take the gallery back, but Wei Qing didn't want to live up to his father's last wish, so he decided to run it with his mother. But Wei's mother didn't agree. She blamed Wei Qing for all her husband's death, and she didn't want to see her son again. "I can't get a gallery." She took Ning Fei away directly and ignored Wei Qing from then on. Wei Qing cried, "Why don't you want me?" The abandoned Wei Qing was very desperate. His mother's ruthless words kept flashing in his mind, and the self-blame in his heart made him collapse, as if his hands were stained with blood. It was also at this moment that he suffered from obsessive-compulsive cleanliness and became allergic to women. 10 years have passed. Wei Qing has always looked for opportunities to get close to his mother, but Wei's mother either ignored him or sneered at him, and every time the two broke up unhappily. On this day, Zhou Shi suddenly asked Wei Qing to help prepare a ceramic bowl. Wei Qing didn't think much and introduced her to an expert. However, when I saw the bowl afterwards, his face became ugly. He recognized the owner of the bowl at a glance. It was Ning Fei, the younger brother raised by Wei's mother as her own son. He thought that Zhou Shi was also circling around Ning Fei and deliberately broke the bowl angrily. Zhou Shi shouted, "It's over, it's over, it's over. How can I explain it now?" Ning Fei is actually a neighbor that Zhou Shi gang knew. Because she sent the wrong courier, she and her best friend came to the door, but her best friend accidentally broke her bowl. Unexpectedly, because she didn't have a bowl to eat, she almost starved herself to death at home. Zhou Shi saw the broken bowl and went crazy in annoyance. Wei Qing said, "You care about it so much?" Zhou Shi said, "That's a human life." Wei Qing said, "I'll solve it." Wei Qing took Zhou Shi to the collection room. It turned out that there was a pair of bowls, and the other had been kept by Wei Qing in the collection room. But he didn't want to give it to Zhou Shi so easily, but fooled her. "A simple ceremony is required before the collection is shipped," he said. Zhou Shi believed it to be true and asked him to do whatever he wanted, but he didn't know that Wei Qing actually wanted to use her as an experiment to treat his allergies. But before it started, Zhou Shi suddenly opened his eyes and asked, "Are you?" Zhou Shi was afraid that the bowl would be broken, so she didn't dare to resist and was forced to retreat until she touched the table. So she freed her hand to push Wei Qing away. But the collectibles on the shelves were also shattered. In order to pay off her debts, she was forced to sign a deed of sale and was on call every day. Not only did she dress up as he requested, but she also had to accompany him to the dinner. At the banquet, she was stopped by an uncle. The uncle asked, "Are you Wei Qing's new girlfriend?" Zhou Shi said no. The uncle said, "That's his toy." The man is Wei Qing's uncle He Wei, but the relationship between the two is not good. He Wei wanted to provoke the relationship between Zhou Shi and Wei Qing, but he didn't know that the two were just contract partners, and Zhou Shi wished to break up as soon as possible. At this time, Wei Qing suddenly came over. Seeing this, He Wei deliberately teased Zhou Shi in front of him, but was directly punched by Zhou Shi. Wei Qing said, "Why don't you apologize to your uncle quickly?" Zhou Shi said, "Don't." Wei Qing said, "I'm sorry, uncle. She was spoiled by me and has a bad temper." Wei Qing didn't want his uncle to see the identity of the two, so he deliberately showed affection in front of him. But from this day on, Zhou Shi was asked to lose weight. She was so fat that she almost couldn't squeeze into her dress. But watching Wei Qing eat meat and her grass every day is simply torture. Eating grass is still a trivial matter, since he dressed up in a high-profile manner. Zhou Shi has been jealous of his classmates. The scheming girl deliberately spilled coffee on her clothes. She said that she was doing a good job and hid her hand. The scheming girl said, "This dress is not easy to wash." Zhou Shi said, "Who said I was going to wash it? It just so happens that I don't like this dress. Thank you for giving me a reason to throw it." Zhou Shi turned around and left. At this time, Wei Qing, who came to pick her up, happened to arrive. He saw her dirty clothes and asked what was wrong. But Zhou Shi didn't tell him about the trouble he encountered. She didn't want to get into trouble, but she underestimated the jealousy of her classmates. The next day, her hot search for sugar daddy broke out on the internet. The head of the department is afraid of having a bad impact on the school. He immediately asked her to go home and rest, and wait for the limelight to pass before going back to school. For a while, she became the target of the whole school, and her former good friends ignored her like strangers. Fortunately, Wei Qing arranged for his assistant to withdraw the hot search in time, and the matter was still within control. But Zhou Shi was still anxious and started a high fever. When her best friend Fei Fei learned that the news couldn't leave, she asked her boyfriend to send medicine to Zhou Shi, but she didn't expect to send a big trouble. The scumbag came in and didn't leave. He had seen the radiant Zhou Shi at school. When he saw her at home alone at this time, he suddenly became evil and did something to her. Zhou Shi hurriedly reported the name of his best friend, trying to make the scumbag retreat, but it didn't work. The scumbag also saw the hot search, misunderstood the relationship between Zhou Shi and Wei Qing, and said, "You have followed Wei Qing. You might as well follow me again. My conditions are not bad. I want to have a face, and I want to have a figure." Zhou Shi had a high fever, and it was when he was weak, and his force value fell to the bottom, and he was not a scumbag's opponent at all. Soon she was suppressed and unable to move. The scumbag is happy that the beauty is about to succeed. At this time, a person came out behind him. Fei Fei shouted, "Gao Yang." The scumbag didn't expect his girlfriend to suddenly go home and be caught, and immediately lied that it was Zhou Shi who seduced him. Zhou Shi was suddenly so angry that he couldn't breathe, but Fei Fei said, "It's boring for you to do this." Zhou Shi asked, "You won't really believe what he says?" The scumbag thought that the scheme had succeeded, and the next second, Fei Fei picked up the bottle and smashed it. The president is allergic to women, but he holds the girl and does not let go. Wei Qing searched for 10 years to find a person who was not allergic. In order to keep people by his side to treat allergies, he designed Zhou Shi to owe a huge debt. But soon Zhou Shi unexpectedly discovered that the broken antiques were all fakes, and angrily came to the door to theorize. But Wei Qing didn't mean to repent at all, but told her, "Even if I do it again, I will still do it. Because you are important to me, I have to do it." Zhou Shi said, "Crazy you. Not everything has to go your way." Zhou Shi didn't want to get involved with him, but Wei Qing didn't plan to let go. The strategy does not work. He pursued it instead. So Zhou Shi and his girlfriend's rental house was filled with all kinds of express flowers. Zhou Shi hurriedly called him to pull the things away, but the things sent by the boss were never recycled. There was no way she had to solve it herself. She didn't expect to meet Wei Qing again on the way, and immediately threw all the cars and flowers to him. But Wei Qing didn't let her leave. Zhou Shi was embarrassed to be stared at, so he hurriedly asked him to have something to say. "Don't keep staring at himself." She said, "I'm not good looking." Wei Qing said, "No, you are very good looking." After Wei Qing finished speaking, he found something on her head, but Zhou Shi, who didn't know it, was startled by his sudden move. After Zhou Shi fell, he said, "Ha, you are still laughing. Pull me quickly." However, before he could get up, he encountered a group of vendors shouting, "The urban management is coming." Wei Qing hurriedly rode a tricycle and ran away. The two went around and finally came to the park, ready to give away the flowers for free. Unexpectedly, the visitor took a fancy to Zhou Shi in the car and asked, "This girl is also given away for free, right?" Wei Qing said, "I'm sorry, this is mine." Wei Qing directly took the person away. He didn't know that Zhou Shi's wallet had fallen on the car, so she lost her living expenses and ate bean sprouts with rice every day. But when she worked at night, she couldn't bear it. She was so hungry that she couldn't help but steal food behind closed doors when she saw so much food left by the guests. However, before she could take a bite, she was interrupted by the manager. Zhou Shi was arranged by the manager to go to another private room to prepare drinks, but she didn't know that her every move just now was seen by Wei Qing inside. So the next day, she received another bunch of couriers, but she didn't even look at it and called Wei Qing to scold her. Wei Qing pretended that the signal was bad and asked her to say something to her face. Zhou Shi couldn't afford the courier fee, so he could only find Wei Qing. Before she could speak, Wei Qing ordered a table of food and asked her to finish eating. She was hungry and almost fooled, but she hadn't forgiven Wei Qing for deceiving her, so she immediately rejected his sugar-coated cannonball. Wei Qing said, "Then what do you want from me before you are willing to forgive me?" Zhou Shi said, "Apologize." Wei Qing said, "Impossible." Zhou Shi said, "Then there is nothing to say." Zhou Shi glanced at the food reluctantly, turned around, and left. The first time Wei Qing met such a difficult person, he was furious. At this time, the assistant said that it was not difficult for Zhou Shi to accept him, as long as he apologized. But Wei Qing decisively refused. He grew so big that he never apologized to humanity. The assistant said, "If you don't apologize, she may never forgive you for the rest of her life." In the end, Wei Qing, under the persuasion of his assistant, said those 3 words, "I'm sorry." Zhou Shi was surprised, although he was a little reluctant, but he did not embarrass him anymore, but maintained a friendship with him that was neither far nor near. But Wei Qing was not satisfied with such a result, and in a hurry, he began to set a trap for Zhou Shi again, pay off the debt owed by her father, and then send someone to collect debts to scare him, thinking that he could use money to buy her as his girlfriend. Wei Qing said, "There is a check here, the amount is written casually." After writing, "Be my girlfriend obediently," Zhou Shi felt that this was an insult. No matter how poor she was, she would not betray her dignity. However, she didn't expect to break up with Wei Qing, and she even lost her job. But when leaving, he accidentally ran into the 2 people who came to collect debts. Zhou Shi hurriedly hid aside, but he didn't expect to learn from them that the debt collection was actually instigated by Wei Qing, so he immediately ran to the company to settle accounts with him. Wei Qing's unscrupulous calculations made her feel chilled, and this time it also involved her family, which had touched her bottom line. She warned Wei Qing not to harass her again, that the money owed would be credited to the account every month, and this time she would not forgive him for saying anything. The mother ignored her son, but used the money he earned to train her adopted son Ning Fei. Wei Ma Hua is at ease. She still disliked Wei Qing in her heart, but she was full of copper smell. For so many years, in order to cultivate Ning Fei, the gallery she runs has lost money every year, and Wei Qing has helped to cover the bottom. But she couldn't see Wei Qing's dedication and never gave him a good face. But Wei Qing always regarded her as her own mother. He was worried that she would not be able to make it through next year's shareholders meeting and wanted to increase the gallery's turnover. So he proposed to package Ning Fei to give full play to his commercial value, but Wei Ma refused. In Wei's mother's heart, Ning Fei, his father and her husband are all real artists. It was time to focus on creation, and Wei Qing was willing to degenerate, bent on getting into the eyes of money, and she didn't allow him to corrode Ning Fei with the smell of copper all over his body. Wei Qing had to remind his mother, Ning Fei's artist father was starved to death in the end, so he was sent to an orphanage. If the Wei family hadn't picked him up, he wouldn't have known where he was wandering. Wei's mother said, "Shut up for me." Wei Qing said, "Don't forget, it is because I fell into the eyes of money that I grew Yunma to its current scale, so you can play art here with peace of mind." Wei's mother was so angry that she asked Zhou Shi to kick people out and not let them step into the gallery for half a step in the future. Wei Qing was once again stung by his mother's attitude. He really thought about his mother, but Wei Ma's eyes only had Ning Fei in his eyes, and he would never see Wei Qing's kindness to her. Wei Qing could only disguise herself with cruel words, but Wei's mother believed it to be true and called him by name for the first time in 10 years, but she warned. She will never allow Wei Qing to ruin her husband's hard work. However, she forgot that her husband was also Wei Qing's father for so many years. If it weren't for Wei Qing's support behind her, her gallery would have closed down long ago. Zhou Shi came to work at the gallery on the first day, but he didn't expect to meet such a big scene, and he wanted to stay away from Wei Qing, but at this moment he sympathized with him. But he immediately warned himself not to overflow with the heart of the virgin. Wei Qing has always wanted to ease the relationship between mother and son, but Wei's mother hurt him again and again. Because of allergies, he had no friends, his only relatives didn't want him, and he didn't even have anyone to talk to. At this time, Zhou Shi suddenly appeared, and in the end she relented and followed. Zhou Shi told her, "When I am in a bad mood, I have to buy and eat with my friends, and when I see the bill worrying, I am not in a mood to be unhappy." But Wei Qing didn't want to buy anything, and he wasn't interested in spending money. Zhou Shi was surprised to learn that Wei Qing didn't even have friends. Asked, "Then why don't you go out with them?" Wei Qing said, "Because I can't contact others." Zhou Shi didn't understand the meaning of the words, thinking that he was cold and unwilling to contact people. Wei Qing hesitated for a moment, but still didn't tell her the real reason. Zhou Shi practiced confession and said, "Brother Xiao, do you want to buy?" Zhou Shi said, "Can you be more natural?" "Brother Don, didn't you wake up? Is it good to be full of emotions?" "Brother Xiao, are you going to fight?" "I don't practice anymore." Zhou Shi had a crush on his brother Li Mingqing next door for 20 years, and in order to successfully confess, he specially dressed up as he liked and rehearsed with Wei Qing. But in the face of Wei Qing's face, she couldn't get into it, so she proposed that he also dress up as Li Mingqing. Wei Qing immediately refused, but he couldn't resist Zhou Shi and finally changed his clothes. Zhou Shi laughed as soon as he saw it, but he didn't know how much better he looked. After a few laughs, she finally entered the role and said what was in her heart. Wei Qing was also moved by her affectionate confession and unknowingly brought it into the role. Just as the two were about to take the last step of their confession, the assistant suddenly interrupted them. The two woke up suddenly, sit in a row in embarrassment. The assistant told Zhou Shi, "You have rehearsed very well, and you will definitely be able to confess successfully tomorrow." Zhou Shi said, Yes, you will succeed tomorrow as you do today." The next day, Zhou Shi happily came to Li Mingqing's party, asked him if he likes his outfit. But Li Mingqing has always regarded her as a sister, and he has not noticed her feelings. He just thinks that she is weird today. Zhou Shi looked embarrassed and hurriedly made an excuse to sit next to his girlfriend. "My girlfriend said, 'You look a little familiar today.'" Zhou Shi thought that Li Mingqing liked her best friend's dress, so she did this, but she didn't expect it to be an oolong. She took off her wig in annoyance. When it came to the gift-giving session, Li Mingqing smiled and opened Zhou Shi's blessing, but the next second he was embarrassed. When everyone saw this unique gift, they laughed. Zhou Shi didn't know that he had given the wrong gift, so he still asked if it was well written. When she found out, she immediately wanted to make a hole in the ground and get in. It turned out that she had prepared 2 pairs of words, which were actually given to Wei Qing, but I took the wrong one on the way here. She hurriedly called Li Mingqing outside to explain. Li Mingqing didn't take it to heart, so she didn't have to blame herself. But before he finished speaking, the birthday star, was pulled in. Seeing Zhang Ranyu circling around Li Mingqing, the two were as talented and beautiful as a couple. Zhou Shi suddenly didn't even have the courage to confess, so he could only drink sullen wine on the side. At this time, Wei Qing, who returned home, also found that he had taken the wrong calligraphy and painting, and immediately rushed here with the gift. When I went upstairs, I bumped into Zhou Shi, who came out. Wei Qing hurriedly asked her if the gift was given out. Zhou Shi said, "It's useless, throw it away." Seeing that she drank so much, Wei Qing wanted to send her back to the private room, but Zhou Shi didn't want to go back, nor did he want to go home. Zhou Shi said, "Is there wine at home?" There was no way Wei Qing had to take her back to his home, but it didn't take long for her to get drunk. The drunken Zhou Shi's painting style suddenly instantly changed from low self-esteem to confidence, asking Wei Qing what he liked about her, pestering her so much before, and giving him another chance to confess. Wei Qing was made to laugh and cry, but he couldn't reason with the drunkard, so he had to laugh with her and talk about her many advantages. Finally, tell her seriously, "You don't have to change yourself for anyone, and you don't need to be the best. There will always be someone who accepts you as you are. It is enough for you to be yourself." Zhou Shi was praised like this for the first time, and he couldn't help but kiss him for a while, saying, "Thank you for praising me." Wei Qing was stunned, and then kissed back not to be outdone. But the next second, she accidentally knocked over the candle. Zhou Shi saw the candle in the water, just like seeing the test paper that fell into the water for the first time when he was a child, and jumped into the pool without hesitation to salvage. Wei Qing hurriedly jumped down and fished her out of the water, saying, "Are you crazy?" Zhou Shi said, "Just think I'm crazy. What is this? Is it promiscuous after drinking?" Zhou Shi took all this as a dream. Anyway, she drank so much, and she must have forgotten everything when she woke up. Wei Qing saw her say this, decided to make this dream a little crazier. The president is allergic to women, but he is surrounded by dozens of ex-girlfriends. Wei Qing was so frightened that he ran away, but the crazy woman chased after him. Just when he was about to run out of breath, Zhou Shi grabbed him and hid in the corner. But it was soon discovered. The two hadn't run far when Wei Qing's feet suddenly began to cramp. In the end, Zhou Shi found a food truck and pushed him directly, and the crazy woman gave up. And the culprit of all this was Wei Qing's uncle He Wei. He Wei accidentally learned that Wei Qing was allergic to women. In order to sabotage his cooperation plan, he deliberately spoiled it at the drinking party and invited the women he had experimented with before. When Wei Qing returned home, he was covered in red rashes again. Seeing Zhou Shi coming, he hurriedly hid his hand. Zhou Shi said, "Don't stop it. I've seen it many times." When Zhou Shi saw the rash on her hand, he immediately guessed that it was an allergy, but she didn't expect the allergen to be human. Wei Qing told her that since he was 18 years old, his body has become like this, and she is the only one who does not have allergies after contact. At this moment, Zhou Shi understood. It turned out that everything that happened to Wei Qing and her before was just a temptation. Zhou Shi said, "That means you don't really like me, but just for experiments?" Wei Qing wanted to refute, but he didn't know where to start. Zhou Shi hurriedly changed the topic, but he felt a little lost inexplicably. The next second, when he heard that Wei Qing wanted her to cooperate with the treatment, he was unhappy and decisively refused, which made Wei Qing inexplicable. But Zhou Shi was not relieved and deliberately ridiculed him for changing girlfriends so frequently, but his body could not develop substantially. It turned out that it was just for face. Wei Qing was pierced by the secret in his heart and immediately hugged her angrily, saying, "Do you want to try? I'm not allergic to you at all. To further confirm the results of my experiment, you need to have more intimate contact with me." Zhou Shi was not afraid of his intimidation. Instead, it gave him a wall dong. The two of them went back and forth and secretly competed, and finally fell on the sofa. Zhou Shi hurriedly surrendered and said he wouldn't play anymore. It's not that she doesn't want to help Wei Qing with treatment, but when she thinks of helping him do that, she can't do it. Wei Qing said, "Actually, you don't have to ask for that if you want to help me." Wei Qing told her that her illness was a psychological rejection of contact with people, and as long as she helped her accept others, maybe the psychological problem could be solved, and the disease would be cured. Zhou Shi said, "This is simple, I can still do it." The next day, she took Wei Qing to a crowded place for dinner. Protect her like an eagle protecting a chick. But Wei Qing, who was heavily cleanliness, looked at the table, turned around, and wanted to leave. Zhou Shi hurriedly took out the disinfectant prepared in advance, and waited for her to disinfect all the tables, chairs and benches before Wei Qing was willing to sit down. But I had problems when ordering. Wei Qing opened his mouth and asked the waiter, "Where are the ingredients imported from? Is it clean? Is hygiene unhygienic? Is it up to standard? Is the oil changed every day? Is it gutter oil or regular oil?" A large number of questions confused the waiter. Wei Qing didn't get an answer, so he immediately asked him to take him to the kitchen to take a look. Zhou Shi hurriedly stepped forward to stop him, saying that he had never seen so much of him before. Wei Qing told her that the restaurant she went to, from pots and pans to the tableware served, was all exclusive to him, and every time before eating, he will also check the hygiene of the kitchen. Zhou Shi said, "You won. Please do as you please." The girl has liked the boy for 15 years, but confessed to her best friend Jingqiu. Li Mingqing didn't know that Zhou Shi had a crush on him and confessed to Jingqiu at his birthday party. Jingqiu was startled and hurriedly explained to Zhou Shi she didn't know. Although they knew it wasn't their fault, the lovelorn Zhou Shi still couldn't accept the blow and immediately ran out of the banquet. Wei Qing hurriedly followed, but it was still a step late. Zhou Shi followed the bus and was devastated. Came to a strange place. At this time, it was raining heavily in the sky, and she was shivering from the cold, but it was not as painful as her heart. Just when she was immersed in sadness, Wei Qing came over and hurriedly took her aside to hide from the rain. Zhou Shi was already unaware of it. It occupies a place in the heart. Wei Qing chased after her all the way in fear, and when he saw her torturing himself like this, he felt very uncomfortable and said, "Isn't it just a broken love?" Li Mingqing is not the only man in the world, but Zhou Shi still couldn't stop crying. In order to make her stop crying, Wei Qing directly picked up the person and thought, "The best way to stop crying is to shut her up." Zhou Shi said, "Why are you bullying me?" Wei Qing said, "I will never bully you again." Zhou Shi quickly regained his composure. Unable to sleep, she chatted with Wei Qing about the past. It turned out that the reason why she liked Li Mingqing was because she was accidentally trapped in the elevator when she was a child. Li Mingqing not only comforted her, but also helped her review her homework. The next day, she scored the first 100 points in her life. I wanted to give him good news, but I didn't expect to fall into the water. Zhou Shi fell in love with him at that time and regarded him as an idol. She has been trying to catch up with him all these years. Wei Qing said, "Can you call this love?" Zhou Shi said, "It should be." Wei Qing said, "Should it?" Two people who have never been in love don't know what love is. The next day, Wei Qing sent Zhou Shi to school and returned the love letter she had lost to her, asking her to continue to confess. Zhou Shi said, "I already know that she likes Sister Su Chen. What else should I confess?" Wei Qing didn't want her to really confess, but to let her leave no regrets and give an explanation to her past self. Zhou no longer hesitated and immediately ran to Li Mingxiang. It seems to go back to the first time I wanted to confess my 100 points in the exam 15 years ago. This time she finally spoke up. After turning to leave, Zhou opened the love letter that had not been sent, but he didn't expect that it had been modified by Wei Qing. Zhou said, "You still said you haven't seen it?" At this time, the figures of Wei Qing and Li Mingxiang kept popping up in her mind. Then she tore up the love letter and test paper, completely let go of Li Mingxiang, and let go of the past. The president of 100 billion is suffering from a strange disease, but the doctor asked an ordinary girl to help him treat it, just because she was the only person Wei Qing could contact. In order to cure his allergies as soon as possible, Zhou moved to Wei Qing's house, but he didn't expect to sleep in the same room with him. It turned out that Wei Qing would have nightmares every night, and only by staying by her side could he sleep soundly. Wei Qing promised her that he was just next to her and would never do anything else. But Zhou disagreed, and being able to move in was already her biggest concession. After Zhou finished speaking, he hurriedly ran back to the guest room. When I got up in the middle of the night to drink water, I saw that Wei Qing was still playing games. Wei Qing couldn't sleep, and when he saw Zhou coming, he hurriedly pulled her and didn't let her sleep. There was no choice, but Zhou had to take a step back and sit on the sofa to accompany him. The next day, she took Wei Qing to a densely populated shopping mall, but before she could take a few steps, Wei Qing's hands had a red rash. Zhou immediately thought that he was also allergic to her. Wei Qing said, "No, there are too many people here." Zhou didn't expect that the panic caused by too many people would also make him allergic. In order to relax him, he quickly asked him to close his eyes, put on headphones and sunglasses, and shield everyone around him. Sure enough, this method worked, and Wei Qing didn't get sick until he came to the middle of the mall. In order to integrate him into the lives of ordinary people, Zhou not only let him eat snacks he had never eaten before, but even wanted him to experience stinky tofu. Wei Qing immediately refused. Stinky tofu was like poison to him, with a serious cleanliness habit. The two accidentally fell while pulling. Suddenly, the stinky tofu spilled all over him, making him stink so bad that he almost fainted. Although the treatment process was not ideal, the effect was not bad. This is the first time in 10 years that he has shuttled through the crowd like a normal person. In the evening, Zhou mustered up the courage to come to Wei Qing's room. It turned out that she had back pain after sitting on the sofa all night yesterday, and she had to compromise because she couldn't stand it. Wei Qing borrowed one of her arms and fell asleep quickly, but she had to rely on counting sheep to fall asleep. When he woke up in the morning, Zhou saw his face close at hand and immediately ran into the bathroom in a panic and shouted, "Wow, wow." She thought to herself, "Why so fast? Why is your face so red?" Zhou kept hinting that she was calm, but when she saw Wei Qing coming in, she still couldn't calm down and hurriedly retreated. But it didn't take long for her to get used to Wei Qing's existence, and the two got along more and more harmoniously. Zhou took him to contact others every day, and also took his girlfriend to watch movies with him. But this long distance made the two unaware girlfriends look dazed. Zhou saw the complaints in the group and could only apologize awkwardly. In the evening, several people returned to the rental house, and Fei kept complaining about Wei Qing's big name, watching movies, and even eating private places. Fei said, "Rich people really know how to play. I think he is not showing off or sick." Jingxiu actually passed a short observation, found clues, and guessed Wei Qing's condition. Zhou saw that he couldn't hide it, so he had to tell them the truth. Jingxiu said, "So, he wants to delay his illness through you?" Zhou said, "Yes. When my girlfriend learned that she was helping Wei Qing treat her illness, she immediately said that she would have any difficulties in the future. But as the two continue to come into contact, the relationship is also heating up and fermenting. My girlfriend saw it in her eyes and went back to question her and Wei Qing about the situation. But Zhou himself was confused and didn't know. But after their reminder, she dreamed of holding a wedding with Wei Qing that night. When she woke up, she hurried to the bathroom and thought, "It's so abnormal and abnormal. Zhou, you must wake up. You can't go on like this. It can't go on like this." After this night, Zhou finally began to face up to his feelings. In order not to let yourself fall deeper and deeper, she decided to increase the intensity of treatment and end the relationship quickly. So the next day, she took Wei Qing to a cattery and let him be alone with the most feared cat. But she didn't expect that this practice would aggravate Wei Qing's condition, and all the previous treatment was in vain. The son was lying on the hospital bed, but the mother and his uncle calculated his shares. Wei has hated his nephew who is 2 years younger since he was a child. Since the Wei family brought back an adopted son Ning Fei, he began to bully Ning Fei and frame Wei Qing. Wei Qing's miserable life also began from this. Because of the misunderstanding of his parents, he has a psychological shadow on cats and has become what he fears the most. In the Yunma group, which he grew up with, was also regarded by Wei as his sister's property and always wanted to get a piece of the pie. Wei's mother was coaxed by her younger brother. He transferred all the shares in his hand to him, and now he began to play Wei Qing's idea again. Knowing that Wei Qing was sick and hospitalized, he actually found someone to secretly take photos and send them to the media, and then spread rumors on the internet that Wei Qing was mentally ill. Wei Qing suddenly came into contact with the cat. As a result, his allergies worsened, and after being discharged from the hospital, he hid at home and refused to see anyone. No matter how much Zhou Shi persuaded him, it was useless. Until Ning Fei came to the door and told him that Wei's mother was sick. It turned out that Wei Ma had no shares in the gallery in her hands, and was immediately kicked out by another major shareholder. Wei Ma was unwilling, so he asked Ning Fei to come to Wei Qing for help. She didn't care if her son was sick, but he was the first to think of him when she was in trouble. Wei Qing finally couldn't be ruthless, let his mother go, and said, "Go back and tell my mother that I won't let Yunma Art have an accident." The next day, he began to cooperate with the treat. With previous experience, contact with people this time is not so difficult. Zhou Shi took him all over the streets and alleys, and finally came to a farmland. Zhou Shi said, "Do you remember?" Wei Qing said, "Remember, this is the place where you insulted me for the first time." Zhou Shi said, "Then why don't we revisit it?" Wei Qing said, "Here you go again." This is the last stop of Zhou Shi's treatment plan. The two rolled in the mud as they had done before, but this time they were in completely different moods. When he was tired of playing, Zhou Shi prepared a small ceremony for Wei Qing. She dressed up as a cat and wanted Wei Qing to defeat her with her own hands, thus overcoming fear and getting rid of the past. But Wei Qing was moved by her in a mess. How could he be willing to do it to her? Wei Qing said, "I'm sorry, I've been worried about you lately." After Wei Qing's allergies recovered, he found another shareholder and helped his mother get back the right to operate the gallery. But he wasn't happy. Since he recovered from his illness, Zhou Shi has moved out. In order to keep her by his side, he and Dr. Chun lied that her condition still needed to be consolidated. So the two came to a resort, but they hadn't finished a meal. Was interrupted by a group of uninvited guests. He Wei slandered Wei Qinghuax into his face, asked Zhou Shi not to be deceived, and even asked Wei's mother to match Zhou Shi and Ning Fei, completely ignoring Wei Qing's existence. Wei Qing immediately confessed to Zhou Shi and declared his sovereignty. But Zhou Shi didn't know that he was real. Ran back to the room angrily. It wasn't until Wei Qing caught up with her that she believed he really liked her. Wei Qing asked, "Then do you like me?" Zhou Shi said, "I probably like it." Zhou Shi didn't want to answer him so happily. At this time, she had already guessed that this vacation was not a treatment, but a routine for her.